You're listening to Thunder and Lightning on SuperTalk Mississippi, covering Mississippi State sports like nobody else. With Sports Talk Mississippi's Brian Hadad and Robbie Falk of On3 Sports. Now get ready for Thunder and Lightning.
This is Thunder and Lightning here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Brian Hadad and... That's just Brian Hadad here on a Wednesday morning. Thanks for joining me here at supertalk.fm or wherever it is that you get podcasts from. I appreciate all you guys out there, our great listeners, especially our servicemen and women out there taking care of us. I want to thank our sponsors over at Strange Brew Coffee House and Churn and Spoon Ice Cream. Start your day the right way with a trip to the drive-thru over at Strange Brew Coffee House here in Starkville or at Brupolo over in Tupelo. Be a little weird if Brupolo was in Phillip.
That would be a little weird.
Wherever you are in our great state, you can enjoy Strange Brew Coffee each and every morning. It's just a click away at strangebrewcoffeehouse.com. The Mississippi Beef Council wants to remind you that beef, it is what's for dinner. If you're cooking out this weekend, nothing beats the sizzle of beef on the grill. It's going to be a great weekend for cooking out. Great weather, March Madness, college baseball. What more do you want? Have a cookout. Invite your friends over and serve up some great beef dishes. Burgers, steaks, brisket, tri-tips, kebabs, picanha. Go see your butcher. Talk to them. Find out what they've got going on and make a great, great meal with beef. Beef, it's what's for dinner. Thank you to our friends at the Mississippi Beef Council. College Corner, collegecornerstore.com. That's the place to find the maroon and white merchandise that you're looking for. You are looking for maroon and white merchandise, aren't you? You need new gear. You need a new pullover, a new polo. You need a new hat, just something different. Change it up. Get it at College Corner. They've got the logos that you want. They've got the name brands that you're looking for, and they've got everything maroon and white. 2 locations to serve you in the Jackson area, Ridgeland by Fleet Feet, Flowood by the Half Shell, or you can shop online at collegecornerstore.com. Restaurant Tyler is Starkville's flagship restaurant for lunch, dinner, or Sunday brunch. The best meal in town will always be at Restaurant Tyler. When you are going to grab a great lunch in the city of Starkville, the place to do it is Restaurant Tyler. If you are a true Southerner like I am, and you love a blue plate, man, the one at Restaurant Tyler is the best in town. I love the blackened catfish. I know we always talk about fried chicken. We talk about fried catfish. I love Restaurant Tyler's blackened catfish. It's low calorie. It's good for you. That now, I do get a little carb heavy on my sides with the cheese grits and the mac and cheese, but that's okay. You can do that. You can do that, and I do it, and I enjoy it. It's one of my favorite meals in town. I love to go eat lunch at Restaurant Tyler. Priority One Bank, 16 locations to serve you throughout central Mississippi. Let PriorityOneBank.com be your guide. They can show you not only where they're located, but they're going to show you how they can help you invest, manage your money, and prepare for the future. Now more than ever, it's important when you have questions about your money that you can get answers. Get them on your schedule, not somebody else's. You want to talk to somebody who knows not only about your account, they know about you. They know who you are. They have that relationship with you. You're going to get that at a bank like Priority One Bank. They give you the level of service that you're looking for. Let Priority One Bank make you their priority. Mississippi State now only 3 days away from the start of the NCAA Tournament as they will take on the Baylor Bears. And this is a matchup, the more that I've looked at it, these two teams, I wouldn't say they're carbon copies of each other, but they both have a lot of bigger players. They both have one smaller guard. For Baylor, it's a freshman. Obviously, it's Hubbard for Mississippi State. They are capable of doing a lot of damage offensively, but they are also inconsistent shooting teams. They're both physical teams. They just have a lot of things in common, and I see where Robbie was coming from yesterday when he talked about the matchup with Michigan State a season ago. Maybe kind of a similar situation, just the way this Baylor team is put together and how they play basketball. And also, having a coach like Scott Drew, who's an experienced coach, a guy who has been in March so many times, has won a national title, has taken teams deep into this tournament. I believe that provides just a little extra juice for the Baylor Bears, a little extra advantage for them. So this is a really good basketball team. And when I look at a team that started out preseason top 10, you think, well, maybe they're just underachievers, and maybe, this is a situation where they're not exactly happy to be there. But then the other side of that coin is, well, they obviously had a lot of preseason hype for a reason. Mississippi State could fall into that. Not a preseason top 10 team, but at one point this year they were in the top 15, and there were a lot of people talking about Mississippi State could be a real contender in the SEC. and it just didn't work out that way for them. So I think these teams on paper, they have a lot of similarities. And I don't know if that favors one or the other. If you're playing, I think the biggest difference between these two teams is that Baylor's a little bit more consistent as a three-point shooting team. And that, as we know, is Mississippi State's Achilles heel. That's where Mississippi State can't get the job done, is out there on the perimeter. And when you look at a team that has 4 guys or 5 guys shooting 35% or better from behind the arc, as a Mississippi State fan, that should bother you. That should have you worried. And when you look at a player like Norchad Omie, who 16 and 11 a game, that's a concern. If he can get going down low, that's going to create opportunities. What has State's biggest problem been this season defensively when we look at them? The ball gets dumped down into the post. Mississippi State double teams, kick out, open look, three-pointer, and it goes in. And State's going to probably have to double team some with Omie. Now, he's not your traditional 5. He's only 6'7", but he is a very physical player. We're going to do an interview in just a minute with Ashley Hodge from Sikkim 365, who's going to talk a little bit about the kind of player Omie is. And, of course, VJ Edgecombe, also a more physical guard. He is not a guy you can put Josh Hubbard on. He's going to require Melendez or Kugel or Harris or someone to step up and into that role. So this is a pretty good Baylor team that's just underachieved a little bit this year. They've had some inconsistency in their lineup. They've had some injury issues. We'll see how it pans out for them. Let's just go ahead and go to this interview right now. I talked earlier today to Ashley Hodge. He covers Baylor as part of the Sikkim 365 network, to get his thoughts on this matchup and the Baylor Bears. So let's get that Baylor preview going with Ashley Hodge from Sikkim 365. And Ashley, this is a team that started the season preseason top 10. Baylor has been one of the best college basketball programs in the country ever since the arrival of Scott Drew over a decade ago. Preseason number 8 to 19-14, 10-10 in the Big 12. Where did this team kind of slide off those preseason expectations?
Well, hey, thanks for having me on. First of all, I'm excited about this matchup. Looks pretty even on paper, so it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And obviously, a great reward to play Duke for the winner. I think it's they've just had a lot of a lack of continuity. Some of it's been injuries. They've had guys in and out of the lineup all year long. They expected Langston Love to be a really key guy for them this year, and he was banged up most of the year. Jeremy Roach had a couple of concussions. The Duke transfer, they lost their big guy, Josh Ojawuna, to an ACL injury midseason. They've had other guys have ankle issues and in and out of the lineup, VJ Edgecombe, Jalen Celestine. So I think it's just a lack of continuity of playing together. Now, they finally have had their nucleus, except for Josh, their big guy, for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and they're playing a little bit better basketball as a result, but still a little bit of a flawed team. I would compare this team to more of a mid-major, a really good mid-major, because they just lack size. And other than Norchad Omie inside, they just don't have a lot of quality size.
VJ Edgecombe is a player that Mississippi State fans would be familiar with. He was heavily recruited by Chris Jans out of high school, ends up at Baylor, and has been shown that he's very much worth the hype. 15 points a game, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, just an outstanding player. Is he the kind of player, because I see a freshman with those kind of numbers, and I immediately think, March always has that freshman. Could he be that freshman that has an outstanding March?
He could be. I mean, he can be a dominant offensive player at times. When he's hitting his threes, he's really tough to stop because he can get downhill and get to the rim on anybody. He's been inconsistent with the 3 ball. I mean, he's had stretches where he'll go 4 for 6, 5 for 7 in a game, and then he'll follow that up with a 0 for 6, 1 for 6. So I think it boils down to whether or not he can hit three pointers. If he's hitting threes, he's a tough matchup because he's just so explosive offensively. I think he'll remind you some of Anthony Edwards. I mean, he doesn't have the body that Edwards has, but he's got that kind of explosion.
It's people mention Anthony Edwards, and great NBA player, and I saw him here, when he came to Starkville, and I remember leaving that game going, "What's the hype? I don't see it." And man, talk about being off on a prediction there. You mentioned also, you'll have to help me with the pronunciation, Norchad Omier. Is that correct?
Omier, yes.
Okay. A double guy, but
Yes.
not a 7-footer. You see somebody averaging 15 and 11, you think, okay, that must be he's 6'7". That
Right.
feels like a guy who Cam Matthews, Mississippi State's best on-ball defender, would draw in a matchup. Physically, what kind of player is he?
I mean, he's as strong as they get.
Mm.
He's a mature guy. I think his age, I think he's 24, 25, maybe older. Sometimes these guys that come from overseas
You never know.
are a couple years older. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but he's a grown man, and he's just really difficult to keep off the offensive glass. I think his game against Houston a week or so ago, where he had 9 offensive rebounds against what I think is one of the most physically imposing front courts in college basketball, was just a result of how difficult he is to keep off the offensive glass. The key for him is he loves to pick up 2 fouls by the under 16 media timeout. So if Mississippi State can get him in foul trouble, it's going to be a long day for Baylor. If he stays out of foul trouble and he's able to play 30, 35 minutes, then he's a handful. And I know Mississippi State's got some great defenders and some physical guys, but it's going to be all hands on deck because he is just so relentless on the glass that he's really a weapon at getting extra possessions for Baylor.
If you followed Mississippi State at all this year, they have a giant Achilles heel. They cannot defend the three-point shot. They are one of the worst teams in the country at it. Teams have consistently been in double digits and in some games 15, 14 three-pointers. This is a pretty good three-point shooting team over there at Baylor. And when you look inside the numbers a little deeply and you take Omier, who's just under 30% as a shooter, Edgecombe is at 35, Robert Wright is at 36, Roach is at 35, and then you have Jaden Nunn, 41.1%. We just went ahead and made a prediction on the podcast that he'll shoot 7 for 10 in this game. This is a good three-point shooting team. Are they as consistent as the numbers on paper make them look?
Well, they went into this season thinking that was going to be their strength. They thought they would be a top 10 in the nation three-point shooting team. They had Jalen Celestine coming from Cal. I think he was like 45% last year at Cal. Mm-hmm. Langston Love was 48% last year at Baylor. Jaden Nunn was over 40%. Roach was at 43% at Duke. So the answer to your question is they haven't been as good as they thought they would be. Mm-hmm. Is it a team that could get hot in March and really string together some 10 to 15 3-point games, like where they hit 10 or 15 3-pointers? Yeah, I think they're capable of that, but they haven't put anything on paper to show that they've had that kind of consistency this year.
Looking at their schedule, they played Arkansas early in the season and got the win, and that's an Arkansas team that's much different now than it was back then. I mean, this is a team that's got some good wins on the schedule. They beat St. John's,
right?
Who's one of the best teams in the country. Close loss to UConn. Lost to Tennessee. So they're certainly battle tested. And when you play in the Big 12, you're going to be that way. Sometimes there's a team in March that has that underachiever label coming into the tournament, but they were preseason hype for a reason. Is Baylor a team that you think could find its way into the Sweet 16? Obviously, there's the big obstacle of Duke, but could this game be a launching pad for them if they're able to get the win?
Yeah, they have some of the ingredients that you would want for a team that could do that. I mean, obviously, a superstar freshman in VJ Edgecombe, another really good freshman in Rob Wright, veteran guys who have been to Final Fours. Jeremy Roach, he's underachieved this year, but he's capable. And then Norchad Omier, and then some other veterans around him that have NCAA experience. But, they have to keep Norchad Omier out of foul trouble. If he is foul trouble, they just don't have answers in the post. He is their post play. And they also have to get hot from three. And they've been really inconsistent in that regard. So I would tend to say that their chances of getting out of this weekend are pretty slim. And even their chances of, winning this game against Mississippi State, I think is a coin flip. But I think that on paper they have some of the things you want to see, and you could see why they were ranked highly preseason, but they just haven't shown any consistency to make you a believer that they'll do that.
Is Scott Drew kind of an X factor for them? This has got one of the best coaches in college basketball, and he knows
Yeah.
tournament basketball. He knows March. Does he give them a little bit of an edge? Jans has played in the tournament.
Yes.
He's gotten
Yes.
teams into the tournament, but he doesn't have the same resume that Drew does by far.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think Drew is early in his career was thought to be an outstanding recruiter, and he's really good in that area. He brings talent into Waco. But I think the thing that's really undervalued with him is just what a great game planning coach he is. He's just able to put together game plans to really exploit other teams' weaknesses and highlight Baylor's strengths. I think he's best in these environments where he's had a lot of success in the non-conference and a lot of success in the tournament over the years. Maybe not as much success the last 3 years. They haven't got out of the first weekend, but he's really good at game planning. So especially on that second game, but you got to get past the first one to get to the second one. So we'll see how he does Friday against Mississippi State.
Whenever we do these kind of previews, we like to find an X factor. I don't want you to say Ormier, or I don't want you to say Edgecombe. Who's a player for Baylor that if you look up and they had a big day on the box score, it would go a long way for the Bears?
Langston Love. He's been hurt most of the year. He's a big body. He's capable of making multiple threes in a game. He's getting healthier. He's dealing with some nagging injuries, ankle-related injuries. But, he's a guy that I think has been anxious to play in the NCAA tournament. He never has. He's been hurt the last couple of years when it came time for the NCAA tournament. He's a physical presence. He's 6'5". He's got a long wingspan, probably gives you some of the characteristics of Cameron Matthews, not as big as Cameron Matthews, but he did a really good job defensively against Juwan Roberts from Houston, one of the best big men in the country, when they played Houston a couple games ago. So I think Langston Love's the X factor. If he's a guy that can score 10 plus points, I think he's going to give you a lot of good things on defense and rebounding. And, he's a guy I would watch.
It feels like these two teams are kind of I wouldn't say mirror images of each other, but these are both big physical teams. Baylor's a much better shooting team than Mississippi State. I'm not sure where State's advantages lie in this one, but we'll see what happens on Friday, 11:15, I believe, 11:15 tip-off between Baylor and Mississippi State. If State wins this game, I'm going to go really deep cut here. I'm going to demand that return game from Baylor from 1995 they never came back to Starkville. We got to get that done. All right, 1995 football. State goes to Baylor.
I remember that. Yes,
they never came back. I have no idea.
Jackie Sherrill.
Who did those contracts? I have no idea.
I know. Yeah.
Ashley Hodge, Thickum 365. Man, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks to Ashley for his time. Really appreciate him. I get the impression just talking to him, I play a little poker, so I try to read people every now and then. I don't think he's especially confident, which is interesting because I'm not especially confident. So one of us is right and one of us is wrong, but I feel like we're right and wrong about the wrong things. So I don't know. If Baylor hits threes, they're going to win. There's just no getting around that fact with Mississippi State. If they come out, especially in the first half, and they get some good looks and those three balls are falling, it's going to be really tough. For State, it sounds like the game plan should be to try to attack them down low, get Ormier out of the game, which you can do with Matthews driving, with Murphy and Nwoko getting the ball down low. If you can get him out of the game early, it puts a real struggle onto Baylor. At the same time, it's to the point where it's not even a thing. It's not a trend. It's just how it is. Somebody on this Baylor roster that is averaging not a lot of points is going to have a big game. It happens every year. Celestine is a really good example of that. It's a guy who's a 36% three-point shooter. He averages 7 points a game. So it could very easily be him. Jaden Nunn averages 9 points a game, but he shoots 41% from behind the arc. I mean, it happens every single game for Mississippi State that somebody that you don't expect, that you don't center your scouting report around, goes off and has a game where they shoot 6 or 7 3-pointers, and that's the difference in the game. If Baylor is just getting its offense through the usual suspects, if it's just Ormier and Edgecombe with the other guys chipping in, State can win this game. That's what's killed State against Alabama. It killed them against Kentucky. It killed them against oh gosh, it wasn't Florida. There was another team in there. Who else did they lose to? Maybe it was Texas. There's always this guy that outside of the leading scorers comes in and has a monster game. If the guys who normally score for Baylor score, State can win the game. State will win the game, I think. But if that guy comes in that's off the radar who averages 7 points a game and he shows up with 20, it's tough. It's tough to win. And it would be great for State to have a game like that. You know, Hubbard and Murphy kind of give you what they give you, but Kugel comes out for 21 points in this game, or Harris hits 4 or 5 threes. That would go a long way for Mississippi State to get. State's role players this year have just not had any kind of consistency. I can't rely on them. I can't sit here and tell you with a straight face that I think that, you know, Riley Kugel is going to show up in this game and give you a massive effort. I can't tell you with a straight face that I think that this is the game where Claudell Harris, you know, shows that incredible three-point shooting form that he showed at Boston College, and he hits 5 or 6 of them and leads State to a victory. I can't tell you that with any confidence. You know, I believe in Hubbard. Hubbard will show up. I think Murphy will show up. I think Cam Matthews will show up because he knows right now every game could be his last. I feel like the effort will certainly be there, especially I think on the defensive end. He and Ormier, if that's the matchup we get, that's an outstanding matchup, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it. But I just don't believe in State's role players. I just don't. And I mean, if you do, that's on you, but I don't know why you would. I've watched every game this team's played. I've been at most of them. Why would I think this team is going to start showing up, you know, that Kugel, Harris, Melendez, Nwoko to a certain extent are just going to show up and start playing at a higher level now. Now, granted, in March, sometimes that does happen. Sometimes you do get those things, but we'll see if that's the case this time around. I would be pretty surprised if that were indeed to happen. All right, let's move into the rest of the show. We're going to talk some football. Speaking of football, real quick, before we do the ads, with the NCAA tournament going on and basically every SEC team being in it, we're going to hold off on the SEC previews. It's just tough to get guys to talk. They're traveling. People are headed to the NCAA tournament. Let's just wait a week. You know, this time next week, I don't think Georgia will still be playing basketball. Kentucky is a maybe, but Kentucky has a separate football and basketball guy. They're a little bit easier. But we'll catch back up next week. We will do that. We're going to talk some MSU spring football now. But let's move into that, and that's brought to you by our friends over at Two Brothers Smoked Meats in the heart of the Cotton District and the Older Brother, also in the heart of the Cotton District. Two of my favorite restaurants in town. I love Two Brothers. I love the pork rind nachos. We haven't talked about pork rind nachos in quite a while. I love the chicken chipotle tacos. That's my favorite taco on the menu. I love the pulled pork grilled cheese. I love the prime rib sandwich. That's the great thing about going to Two Brothers. I don't have to lock into just one thing. Some of your restaurants, I'm like, I like to get this. At Two Brothers, I got 4 or 5 things I can go to, and that's why I love going there. I also love the Older Brother, one of my favorite places in town. I would go there more often. I should go there more often because I love that place. I think it's fantastic. One of my favorite places in town, and you will enjoy it too. Two Brothers Smoked Meats and the Older Brother right there in the Cotton District. Great products, great service. Every business likes to promise it to you. They deliver it to you at Advantage Business Systems. That's what they've been doing for 50 years. Brother. When you need technology for your business, give Advantage Business Systems a call. And then if you need service, it's the same number. It's the same people. It's the people who've been taking care of you since you made that purchase. They treat you like a neighbor, not a number. Next time you need a new copy or a new printer at your business, you need to call Advantage Business Systems, 601-362-9192, or visit them online, absms.com. Find out how Advantage Business Systems will help your business do business. For your next trip to Starkville, Mississippi, next time you walk into the stadium, before you go into that stadium, you need to make a trip to Maroon & Co. You need to get some new gear, and nobody in Starkville has a bigger or better selection than Maroon & Co. That's why they are the best. That's why I talk about them all the time. That's why I say, hey, if you're going to be in Starkville, if you're going to be in the Golden Triangle and you need MSU gear, the place to go is Maroon & Co. Use our promo code to save a little money. Thunder15, 15% off regular price. Some exclusions do apply. I still don't know what the exclusions are. I'm still waiting to find out. We'll find out soon enough. We'll talk to anybody in Starkville. They'll tell you need to go to Maroon & Co. All right, earlier today, I talked to Jeff Lebby. We talked to Jeff Lebby. It's spring football. Let's see what the Bulldog head coach had to say after day one of spring practice.
Well, one day of practice in.
Yeah. For our guys, I feel like over the last 9 weeks, you talk about 40 new players on the roster, over 40. Our guys have tried like heck to get to know each other and become a team so that today we could get out there and focus on the ball. And I think our energy, our effort, our attitude today, really good. I feel like from a roster standpoint, where we are today compared to a year ago today, completely different. And so excited about being able to get into spring ball a little more, get pads on here in a few days, and get to work.
It's hard to tell on day one a whole lot of stuff, but you can definitely see a difference in the guys out there, their body types, things like that. Do you see that? Do you think that you've kind of overhauled it a little bit there?
Yeah, I think without a doubt. And when I talk about the roster being completely different, that's really what I'm talking about. I'm not real sure right now today who the best ones are that we got, and I think that's natural with the way the roster is and the way the roster turnover is. So as we get into it, I think the best part again is the fact that our bodies are completely different from a D-line standpoint, night and day. From a backer standpoint, again, night and day. I think you look at our quarterback room and the physicality that's in that room and some of the things they're going to be able to do from a depth standpoint, night and day. So we got a ton of work to do. Man, our guys have been incredibly willing and have had just unbelievable energy inside the building, which we got to have.
What's it been like with Coach Lodeholt and Dancy kind of joining the staff now and getting to work here on the field?
Yeah, it's been great. Obviously with Big Phil, he's just got such great familiarity with me, which has been awesome. And so that's been incredibly seamless. I think it's been great for the outside backers and the jacks, and the DNs to be able to have Coach Dancy here and being able to split it up with DT coaching the inside guys. There's just a lot more one-on-one, which I love, and I think is really, really good for us. So both those guys have great energy. They got great toughness. They got great knowledge in the game, and excited about where we're going with them.
Kind of take us through the process with Stonka and kind of switching to safety. I know he can obviously still play both. What kind of led to that?
We did. We felt like at the end of it, we had the opportunity in the receiver room. Some things changed, but knew we were going to be able to get some really good players, and I think we have. Stonka got a chance to be an incredible player, whatever he does. I think on the defensive side of the ball, he gives us something that we haven't had, and from a playmaking ability standpoint, and he does. He's a guy that's got great instinct, got great instincts for the football. He's got great physicality. I'm proud of that dude for buying into it and wanting to do it and being excited about it, while we're still going to have the ability to sprinkle him in on offense and doing some things. So, man, he's taken it, he's ran with it, and excited about where that's going to end up.
In terms of the defense, just with the roster moves and some of the coaching changes you talked about, where do you just see some of those biggest improvements for this season's team?
Yeah, today, after not being in pads day one, the biggest improvement is the body type, the length, the size. The guys that are over 300 pounds that have the ability to move weight in this weight room inside the rack, the guys that have had production playing the position at other places, that's what's in the room right now. And again, I'm excited about that.
You added two, not only former defensive coordinator, two head coaches to your staff. What does that add to your staff as a whole, and what's their role in the practice field?
Yeah, and Coach Dancy, obviously a head coach as well. So all three of those guys, but having Paul and Mac here, guys that I've coached against and have a ton of familiarity with, they bring experience. Both been great defensive coordinators. Both have been great head coaches. Have worked at big-time places, in Power 5, Power 4 leagues, and so for me, man, just having those guys as an extra set of eyes, Mac being able to help me just from a programmatic standpoint and looking at some things while being able to help with the DNs, outside backers, and then Coach Rhodes being able to help the corners and being in the defensive room. They both are every single day. So again, just another set of eyes and ears, man, that have seen it, have lived it, have had a bunch of success, and these are two guys that are incredibly loyal, that love football, and they're all in, which has been awesome.
Obviously, you're going to be cautious with Seth Davis, but how was it to see him back out there?
Yeah, we'll be really cautious. We'll be slow to go with Seth and just try to work him back in as we see fit.
The running backs for him last year.
Everybody was new with you. How much is having these veterans who've been with you for a year, how much does that make a difference? And who are some of the guys on day one that you see kind of being leaders?
Yeah, the automatic guys are Blake Shapen, obviously, is a guy that understands what we want and how we want to go about it. Think about Isaac Smith on the defensive side of the ball, a guy that knows how we want it done and what it's all about. So those two guys have been great. There's been more. We're going to continue to need more. I've said it, leadership to me knows no age. Guys that do the right thing, that are in the building, that spend time nonstop, those are the guys that are going to create leadership for our team and take us where we want to go.
This time last year, I asked you about the running back room, and you said that room had to get better. Now, a year later, how do you feel about that room?
I feel really good about the room today. We got to do a great job of keeping those guys healthy and giving them a bunch of reps. But that room today, we've completely flipped it in a calendar year. There's incredible depth, and excited about that room. Great competition.
You beat out a lot of teams for fluff too, and you look out there and it just looks like an SEC back. We know what kind of season he had last year. What kind of dynamic does he add to what you want to do offensively?
Yeah, he's going to be a big, powerful, fast guy, and so that guy's had again success at a different place, not this level. But what I love about Fluff is he's worked. He has come in here and worked his butt off. That entire room, that whole room. Nobody's on the list. Everybody takes care of their business. They do things the right way. And so to me, it's a credit to who's leading that room every single day, and Coach Tuck, and credit to how we've recruited and the guys that we've signed.
You mentioned Blake coming back and showing that leadership. Wouldn't the guys' respect level for him, especially coming off the injury and still taking care of his team?
Yeah, I mean, everybody inside our program has great respect for Blake because of the way he plays the game. I mean, the guy he'll die for you, and he'll inspire every single day. And so he does. He spends more time in this building than anybody inside our program. That's the expectation. That's what we're going to have to get it done. And he'll continue to do that for us.
We've seen a lot of programs choose to do away with the more traditional spring game. Where do you stand on that? Obviously, you're still having one this year. So, what do you see as the value of having that?
Yeah, our guys need to play. We've got such a new roster, a different roster. There's been so much turnover. Our guys need to be in competitive situations and go play and put in position to make the play, or guys not make the play. We need to be able to evaluate that for 15 true practices. The more game type situations I think we can be in, the better for us.
Physically, you can really see Kamaro is super impressive for a true freshman, but I know there's going to be that wall that those guys hit, or some areas he needs to improve. And what do you think is the biggest thing for him right now in these first few practices?
Yeah, just understanding the speed of everything. I mean, that's going to be the biggest thing for him. He's really done an unbelievable job of working his butt off to get himself to this point. I'm talking about in the film room, in the meeting room, and spending time. I think it's a huge credit to Blake. It's a huge credit to Luke. And that room right now is really strong. It's very competitive, and we got guys that understand what it takes to be a quarterback from a time standpoint and an expectation of how you got to operate. And so he got a great future ahead of him.
Going into your second spring now, what's more streamlined this year, more efficient this year, maybe from your first spring as a head coach?
It's top to bottom. At everything from our schedule to what the expectation is from nutrition, what the expectation is in the weight room, every part of our program being in year 2, everybody understands what we want. We didn't have a turnover. We really didn't. We added some guys in, but you look at us programmatically, everybody is back. And I think that's a huge, huge deal in today's game. There's so much change on a roster. You have the ability to be the same from a staff standpoint. You got a chance to take the jump that you need to jump.
How would you kind of assess the offensive line room right now?
Yeah, we're still in the middle of assessing that. We're not where we want to be, and we'll continue to recruit at a high level there. We'll continue to look spring portal there. That's the reality of it. We got to add some pieces inside that room, but we'll get to where we need to get.
We saw Blake out there today, looks pretty healthy. What is just his status with the shoulder, and is he for sure your starter quarterback?
He feels great. He got all the reps with the ones today. He'll continue to work and put himself in a position to play at a really high level. Blake he's light years ahead of where the other guys are at because of the reps that he's gotten and the work that he's had and the experience that he has. And so, again, he's a guy that's got great command of what we want. He's the healthiest and the biggest and the strongest he's ever been in his career, being at 210 pounds. That was key for us. It's key for him. And again, it's a credit to him because he spent the time.
You got a lot of production to replace in the receiver room. You added a lot of speed from the looks of things. Do you feel good about where you are from a speed and quickness level there?
Yeah, I think we've got a real chance to upgrade in a great way in the receiver room with a bunch of consistency, some really good body types, some high-level speed that we got to have to play the way that we want to play. And that room right now is bought in. And that's what I've seen more than anything is the room is bought into being a complete room to where we can go roll guys and there's an expectation of how we want things done and they're bought into it.
Thank you, Coach.
Appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.
I'll be honest, if I had known what Lebby was going to say before, because obviously I'm recording this in pieces, as you can tell, I might have led the show with it because I thought his answer to Benjamin's question about spring games was very good. And in case you didn't go through the whole audio there, he was asked, nowadays their spring games are getting canceled. They're just not happening. You're still planning to have one. Why? And his answer could not have been more truthful. And, you think about football coaches and they sometimes they like to dance around. Not here. They need to practice. And he is exactly right. And I think we've kind of lost sight of that a little bit in football right now. There's so much concern about roster poaching and everything else that we forget that this is football practice and you're trying to get ready for the season. And this team went 2-10 last year. They need every freaking rep they can get. So kudos, and that is just smart from Lebby. That's the correct answer now that I think about it. Why wouldn't he have a spring game? That's a practice. His team needs to practice every available second that they can. That's the correct answer. That was the correct answer. So the other stuff from Lebby, I mean, it's the first day. I mean, what are we doing here? I feel like sometimes people want to, get a depth chart and just go. Like, you can't have that. And so I thought, his general demeanor was that he feels like he feels like his team is a little more built to compete in the Southeastern Conference this year. Now, whether or not that's the case will remain to be seen. But at least it feels like Lebby is a little more confident in his roster. When you look back at some of the things he said a year ago, I mean, I don't think he was negative about his team, but he dropped a few hints there, and that I never picked up on, and I guess nobody else did either. Where he talked about, I know how it's supposed to look, and things like that, and I think maybe he's saying it doesn't look that way, and still a long way to go, but you heard his confidence in the running back room. I share that with him. His quarterback room, I mean, he's got 3 really good prospects in there. So we'll see where that takes him. He wasn't asked about the offensive line. He was asked about Loadhold as a new coach. But for me, obviously, all these questions are going to be on the defensive side of the ball. When you look at that side of the ball, I don't see the difference makers that you need to be a bowl team in the SEC. That's where I'm concerned. If you said, Brian, what's your biggest concern about Mississippi State football in 2025? I don't think they have difference makers on the defensive side of the ball. And, I don't know that they're going to be able to pick any of those up in the final portal window that can make a difference for you. That's my concern for this team. I feel like this team, it could be a situation where, you remember last year, Robbie and I were both pretty adamant about they're going to struggle defensively, but they'll score a lot of points and the games can be close that way. Maybe this year it could be a little closer to that. Maybe this year it can be a little bit more of that where, they're losing, but they're losing 45-42 instead of losing 42-28. Maybe that's the case. We'll see. That's defense is where all of my worries are with this football team. But I want to give Lebby a lot of credit there. I thought that the answer to the spring game question, we've lost the plot. We've forgotten that, hey, these guys are trying to get ready to play a football season. They need to practice. And a spring game is a great situational practice. Put yourself in front of, a smaller crowd, but a crowd nonetheless, and play in game conditions. Your team needs that, especially when your team was 2-10 a season ago. All right, I don't know if we're doing. I don't think we're doing rumblings tomorrow, so let's hold off on that. Robbie will be traveling; he's headed to Raleigh. We'll just kind of focus on things like that. Also, again, I mentioned I'm doing this in pieces. I got back with one of my Georgia guys, so we will do a spring preview on tomorrow's edition of Thunder and Lightning. So, just a hectic week, a lot going on. We got football, we got basketball, we got baseball. Baseball's wrapping up as we're recording. I think they were up. What's the score here? I think it's 15-3 at this point. So it's almost over. So we'll talk about some baseball on tomorrow's show as well. Guys, have a great Wednesday. We'll be back with you on Thursday. For Robbie Falk, who's not here, I'm Brian Hadad. Thanks for listening to Thunder and Lightning here on Super Talk, Mississippi.